August 15, 1977, 10:16 p.m. The Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio is scanning the constellation Sagittarius. The world is obsessed with the launch of Voyager, looking for life in the stars. But life was already reaching back. A signal hit the receiver. It didn't drift. It didn't flicker like a pulsar. It was a narrow band broadcast, focused on a frequency that is universal, 1420 megahertz, the hydrogen line, the water hole where intelligent species are supposed to meet. It lasted for exactly 72 seconds. Not a second more, not a second less. Why 72? Because that is the exact window the Big Ear telescope could track a single point in the sky as the Earth rotated. The signal was already there, waiting, and it continued after we turned away. When astronomer Jerry Emmons saw the computer printout days later, he circled the sequence, 6EQUJ5. In red ink, he wrote one word, "Wow." But the archive suggests that word wasn't an exclamation of joy, it was a mask for a deep existential dread. Let's look at the sequence, 6EQUJ5. These aren't just random characters, they represent the intensity of the signal. It rose from nothing, peaked at U, the highest power level ever recorded from deep space, and faded back into the void. It was a perfect, deliberate arc, a hello from a distance so vast that by the time we heard it, the sender might have been extinct for thousands of years. The Big Ear was a massive, crude instrument, looking like a graveyard of wire and steel. Yet it captured something that our modern, multi-billion-dollar arrays have never seen again. Why? Because the wow signal wasn't a broadcast, it was a spotlight, and for 72 seconds, the Earth walked right through the beam. Some within the archive believe the signal wasn't meant for us at all. We were just a moth flying through a laser beam meant for someone or something much further away. We intercepted a message that we were never supposed to hear. And in that message was a frequency that perfectly matched the resonant vibration of a dying star. The most terrifying thing about the wow signal isn't what it was, it's where it came from. Astronomers tracked the coordinates back to a region near the star system Tau Sagittarii. They pointed every telescope we have at that spot for decades. They found nothing. No planet, no sun, just a cold, lightless void. This defies the laws of physics as we know them. A signal of that power requires a transmitter the size of a city, powered by the energy of an entire sun. You don't just build that in the middle of nowhere, unless the transmitter isn't there anymore. The archive contains a theory that has been scrubbed from the SETI archives, the mirror protocol. It suggests that the wow signal was a time-delayed broadcast, a relic of a civilization that knew they were facing a cataclysm. They didn't send a message to say hello. They sent a message to act as a cosmic lighthouse, a warning about the Great Filter. In 2026, we are still analyzing the sequence 6EQJ5. If you convert those intensities into binary code, a pattern emerges. It isn't a language, it's a mathematical proof of a decaying orbit, a countdown. Why did Jerry Emmons never hear it again? Why did the sky go silent? Because the lighthouse was destroyed. Shortly after the signal reached Earth, a massive gravitational anomaly was detected in that sector of Sagittarius. A star didn't just go supernova, it vanished. We didn't catch a greeting, we caught a scream. A 72-second scream from a race that realized, too late, that the void doesn't just listen, it eats. The wow signal remains the only piece of evidence that we are not alone, but it is also evidence that being not alone is a temporary state. We are looking for neighbors, but the archive suggests we are actually looking at a graveyard. Archive File 03, the wow signal. Status: unresolved. Keep your radio tuned. But don't be surprised if the next thing you hear is a 73rd second. We are accustomed to calling it the wow signal, but in the archive's registries, this file is listed under a different classification, Spectrum 1420. Most people see the code 6EQUJ5 as a mere string of characters, but if you strip away human interpretation and overlay these values onto a grid of quantum probabilities, something else emerges. Each character in this sequence represents a power level. But why is it so perfectly symmetrical? Nature does not create such curves. This was a focused beam, narrow like a surgical laser piercing the fabric of space. If the source were natural, a comet or a gas cloud as officials tried to convince us in 2017, the signal would have been dirty. It would have possessed sideband frequencies. But WOW was virginally pure. A cryptographer who worked for the National Security Agency in a private letter now held in the archive pointed out a disturbing detail. If you translate the alphanumeric code into frequency intervals, we receive not a message, but a stamp. It is as if someone pressed a seal against the vacuum. This code, 6EQUJ5, is a fundamental constant of the hydrogen atom structure under extreme compression, the kind of compression possible only inside a black hole. This leads to a terrifying thought. The signal was not sent from a planet, it was sent through spacetime. Someone used the gravitational lens of a black hole to amplify their scream. And if they required such power, it means the recipient was much further away than we can imagine. We were simply in the line of fire, accidental witnesses to someone else's colossal conversation. Humanity has made many mistakes, but the most fatal occurred on August 15, 2012. On the 35th anniversary of the signal's reception, National Geographic and the SETI project decided to answer. They collected over 10,000 tweets and video messages, encoded them, and sent a powerful radio pulse toward that exact spot in the constellation Sagittarius. The archive calls this the Great Exposure. While scientists laughed and celebrated, terror reigned in deep intelligence bunkers. We broke the first rule of survival in the cosmos: never answer until you know who is on the other end. If the dark forest theory is correct, then space is not an empty hall, but a dark forest full of hunters. Every hunter sits in the shadows, holding their breath. If he hears a rustle, he does not call out, he fires, because any other life is a potential threat to resources or survival. Our 2012 response was like a bright bonfire lit in the middle of a night forest. We didn't just say hello, we transmitted our coordinates, our level of technological development, and our biological structure. We shouted, "We are here, we are weak, and we are full of hope." More than a decade has passed since that day. Radio waves travel at the speed of light. If whoever sent the WOW signal still exists, our answer will reach them in a few hundred years. But if that empty spot in Sagittarius holds not a civilization but an automated sentry post, then our answer has already been processed, and the decision has already been made. Why have we never heard anything similar after 1977? The official answer, it was an anomaly. But documents from the Blue Shift folder tell a different story. Since the 1980s, the US government began systematically decommissioning or upgrading radio telescopes capable of receiving narrowband signals on the hydrogen frequency. The SETI project was turned into civilian entertainment, stripped of serious funding. We were made deaf on purpose. Why? So that we wouldn't hear the sequel. The archive holds a recording of radio noise made by an amateur in rural Ohio in 1994. At 1420 megahertz, he caught something that lasted only 3 seconds. It wasn't a rising and falling tone. It was a sharp, intermittent screech, resembling the sound of tearing metal. When the recording was run through modern processing algorithms in 2026, the AI recognized a structure in this sound, biological DNA, but not ours. It was a blueprint for a protein that cannot exist in a carbon-based lifeform. It was a virus, a digital virus sent across interstellar space. The 1977 WOW signal was a handshake, a technical connection test, and what followed it was an attempt to upload data into our systems. Those who remain silent in the government know, the sky is not empty, it is infected, and every time we point our antennas upward, we risk letting in something that will erase us like a software glitch. Ultimately, the WOW signal remains the most important event in human history that we were ordered to forget. Jerry Emin, the man who wrote WOW on the paper, refused to believe in the signal's extraterrestrial origin until his dying day. Why? Perhaps it was a psychological defense mechanism. It is easier to believe in comets than in the fact that God, or a demon, just looked at you. Today, in 2026, the sky above us is changing. Satellites from Elon Musk and other corporations create white noise, making it harder to pierce through to true signals from beyond. And perhaps this is our salvation. We are creating our own digital cocoon, becoming invisible and inaudible to the rest of the galaxy. But the 1977 signal is still flying through the void. It passed us by and moved on, toward other stars. We were merely an accidental obstacle in its path, and those 72 seconds became the longest moment in our history, a moment when we realized our insignificance. In the archive, this file is marked with the status pending. We are waiting for the year 2042. That is when, according to some analysts, the echo of our 2012 response is due to return. But it won't be a radio wave, it will be a physical presence. Until then, the only thing left for us is to maintain silence. Do not look for them, do not answer them, because in a dark forest, silence is life, and a signal is a death sentence. Archive File 03, the WOW signal. Access restricted. End of recording. My name is your name/channel. You have been listening to the Void Archive. Subscribe to learn the truth before the airwaves are finally filled with interference. End of file.